So, this is My Little Pony, episode 4, On Your Marks. What a good episode this was. After the two-parter and the first non-two-parter episode both being kind of just okay, it was nice to have an episode that I could finally enjoy. Everything was great about this, and this has been worth watching over and over and over again as I watch other reactors react to the episode. I had a difficult time tolerating rewatches of the previous episodes before this, so it was really nice to have something that I can actually enjoy sitting down to watch others react to. The problems I had with the Season 6 premiere two-parter and the gift of the Mod Pie is that they were kind of boring and I sort of knew where things were going. In this one, even if it was predictable, which I don't think it was a story that was fun to go on and see how it played out every time. And it had lots of nice stuff from the background characters. It had the first official full-length song of Season 6. I don't count the Pie Sisters Swap Days song as a first song of the season. I count this as a first song of the season. It had interesting stuff going on, characters I cared about doing things. It had tons of nice background stuff. It was just fun and well written all the way through. So it was good to get back into the kind of stuff that makes My Little Pony an interesting series and get away from that stuff that feels like it's just another little girl show. I think partially that's because the writer was Dave Polsky, a longtime veteran of the series, and it wasn't those two new people or Josh Haber, who knows good writing, but maybe could have been a little bit better on his two-parters. So the story starts off with the CMC sitting around the clubhouse feeling bored. It's kind of cute to watch Stoodaloo staring at her own butt and spinning around like a dog chasing its tail. I found something kind of mildly amusing about that. And then Apple Bloom tries to get her friends to rally around the idea of doing something together like they used to, and still isn't used to the idea of them having cutie marks because she completely forgets they have them when she says, "Let's go out and try to get our cutie marks." And I can sort of see this playing out with kids in real life. You know, you get something new and all you want to do is sort of sit around showing it off and spending time with your new thing, and it takes a while for you to slip back into the routine of doing stuff with your friends. Or, you know, even more complicated is when you're growing up and you have to adapt to the situation of juggling a actual job with school and real life and all sorts of other things, and being like, oh, well, something new has come into my life and things are changing, and now instead of having time to play all day, I have to make actual free time for my various interests, and I've grown up and my interests have changed and my life has changed, and now the stuff that I enjoy doing isn't the stuff that my friends enjoy doing, and I have to get used to the idea of doing things with other friends without the old friends that I grew up with. You know, that's a real thing that people have to deal with as they grow up. So this little situation that Apple Bloom and the others are finding themselves in is something that people really have to deal with. So it's nice to have a story depicting that kind of problem. We also get a little bit more into the personalities of the characters themselves, as we learn that Sweetie Belle likes crocheting and Stoodaloo likes to do things that pump her adrenaline, like bungee jumping, and Apple Bloom has been so used to hanging around other ponies, whether it's her family or her friends, that she doesn't know how to be her own individual. She doesn't know how to have fun on her own without others planning activities to be with her. She doesn't know how to not be the friend or not be the younger sister and just find something that interests her herself. And it looks like the new thing that she's going to be taking up as one of her hobbies in addition to potion making, which is great to see her getting better at potion making, hanging out with Satora and possibly adding something to herself that can tell stories in the future. But now she's going to pick up dancing as an interest. So it's nice to see her becoming a more complex character. In fact, they're all becoming more than what they used to be. The CMC are going in a new direction. But I think the real fun for analyzing comes from the background stuff. Because as far as the Apple Bloom story goes, this is just Apple Bloom trying to find her place in the world, and then she meets a young colt and teaches him how to not have stage fright. The stuff that goes on in the background is a little bit more interesting to talk about, because you get things like Bulk Biceps getting to have major speaking lines and finding out that he's having issues understanding his cutie mark. Of course, Bulk Biceps is pretty easy to have a problem understanding things because he's not depicted as being overall too bright. Then you have the appearance of Tree Hugger again. That was a nice surprise and one I don't think I would have been able to predict if I was listing stuff that I was expecting to see come back. I thought if someone like Tree Hugger or someone even like Toto Pomelo or Cheese Sandwich were to come back, that they would have speaking roles. But Tree Hugger chooses the path of Suri Polymere and actually doesn't have speaking roles in her background appearance. And instead, she's just there to get the fans excited and to help tell the story. And I'm not surprised that Tree Hugger would want to do modeling. It seems in line with her character. It was certainly interesting to see all those famous artists like Andy Warhol and a few others depicted as artists among the painters painting her. But the way she's posed and the way I'm familiar with how the art world plays out, I can't help but think of her as a nude model now. Although technically ponies are normally nude all the time, so it's not a huge deal. But when you consider all of the other factors, that image just keeps playing in my head for some reason. And then we have the other background stuff going on, like the fact that Mephistar, who was established as a great organizer before Twilight came along, was helping the mayor organize stuff at City Hall. That we had background ponies other than Lyra Bonbon Derpy, Dr. Hobbs, Octavian, Vinyl Scratch sitting in that raft when Apple Bloom was on her rafting ride. And that we took a little trip to see Cherry Berry and Berry Punch as they stomp on the grapes to make what I would assume is wine, but what one could easily argue to be grape juice or jelly or something else of that nature. Something that Apple Bloom should have been good at because she does it at the Sister Hobbs social, but which she just got a little carried away and fell out of the little thing. But it's nice that they're taking these characters like Noteworthy and Carrot Top and giving them a little more spotlight, because normally that spotlight would be on Lyra and Bon Bon, or Vinyl Scratch or Derpy or Dr. Hoobs, and instead they're picking out other ponies who don't normally get to be the center of attention, and they're making them important background uses. So yay for getting a little bit more out of Carrot Top and Cherry Berry and Berry Punch and Noteworthy, when they could have very easily have just slipped in the more popular background targets. And this episode was not without those popular background targets, because Lyra and Bon Bon and Octavia and Dr. Hoobs and Derpy and Dinty and Button Mash were all hanging out in the background during the dance recital, along with a whole plethora of other background ponies. And the dance recital itself was also interesting, because the young colt, Tender Taps, I believe his name was, got to do his dancing and conquer his stage fright. Something you could have easily given to Fluttershy, but we wanted to make up a new blank flank to be the shy character who is facing stage fright, and to have him actually conquer that fear and learn something, as opposed to what Fluttershy would have done, which would have been baby steps that would have gotten her on stage, but not on stage repetitively. And the other neat thing about Tender Taps is that he has a whole sort of Gene Kelly thing. If you watch any Gene Kelly movies, I mean, you have to go back to my parents' day when they were kids. I mean, we're talking a couple of generations back to understand who Gene Kelly is. But Gene Kelly had a lot of the same moves that Tender Taps did when it came to the dance moves. You know, all that toe tapping and back flipping and sliding on your knees. That's all very Gene Kelly style dancing. And while you younger kids may not appreciate who this obscure star of musical movies is, I certainly appreciated that little reference. And it's nice to get new characters along with the old ones, so it doesn't feel like people are just recycling the same characters over and over. We had a nice blending of familiar background characters returning, familiar background characters getting to do a little bit more, and new characters. As opposed to last week's Manhattan trip, when most of the ponies were just reused from their previous visits as background ponies, even going as far as to show some of them in the exact same poses that they were in the last time they were used. So I feel like they did a lot more attention to detail in the background and did a lot more interesting stuff with it. And it was also nice at the stool scene to see in the background Diamond Tiara and Silver Spoon are interacting. Diamond Tiara and Silver Spoon are interacting with another young pony, one that we haven't seen before. We even see Silver Spoon spoon feeding their new friend whatever it was that they were baking, making me think, maybe this is why Silver Spoon is Silver Spoon. Maybe her special talent is spoon feeding other ponies. Although it could be a coincidence that that was a spoon she was using in that sequence. Also, when you think about, that's a lot of stuff she squeezed into one day, considering that she had time for rafting and dance recitals and had to go to school as well. Apple Bloom's song was nicely done, and a lot of interesting things happened while she was singing it, but I think I had more time paying attention to things like tree hugger modeling and noteworthy rafting and Silver Spoon being kind to other ponies than I did enjoying the song itself. So I'm going to say this is the first good episode of the season. That's about all I have to say for On Your Marks. Thank you for watching, and good night.